Repeat is brought to you by Plex Live TV and DVR. Cut the cord, keep your cash. Now watch and record your favorite free HD TV digital broadcast channels, including local news and sports. Then view on any device anywhere in the world. Visit www.plex.tv to learn more. In the fall of 1979, CBS television aired the first episode of a show featuring an orange Dodge Charger known as the General Lee, driven by two good-looking moonshine-running rednecks named Bo and Luke Duke. CBS turned the family-friendly comedy action series The Dukes of Hazzard into a merchandising goldmine and captured 21 million viewers. Rival network NBC decided to counter the hillbilly hoedown with something hot, fresh, and technologically superior in the form of a sleek black car from the future. In 1981, NBC and Glen A. Larson set a new standard for action-adventure. Driven by a tall, dashing David Hasselhoff, the Night Industry 2000, or KITT if you prefer, began the legend of Knight Rider that is still alive over 35 years later. I'm Shane R. Monroe, and this is Repeat. While television rivals have existed since the medium was introduced, NBC targeted the Dukes of Hazzard in a very personal way, going so far as to even shoot a promo of the modified Pontiac Trans Am outperforming a faux General Lee. They even demoted the General Lee's signature 01 on the door down to 00. NBC supplied lucky viewers a Versus poster featuring just how much the Night Industries 2000 kicked the pants off the orange Dodge Charger, featuring the moniker Knight Rider, the fastest show on television. Producer Glen A. Larson had left NBC Universal after producing hit after hit for the company. By 1982, Larson had a long resume of sci-fi smashes such as The $6 Million Man, Battlestar Galactica, and Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. Coupled with other solid shows like the popular Quincy M.E. and BJ and the Bear, the in-demand Larson departed Universal to go to Fox. In exchange for being released from his contract with Universal 1 year early, Larson sold away the rights to everything he had for the price of $1. Another caveat that the Universal wrote into the contract-breaking deal was that Larson had to commit to one more show for the broadcasting giant in the future. Universal came to Larson shortly thereafter with the idea for a super crime-fighting car, and told the producer he was really the only guy that could pull it off. Flattered, Larson, despite the contract having likely expired, decided to do the show. Retreating for 10 days to Hawaii, Larson drafted the pilot and returned it to NBC. One of the last pilots presented, the bigwigs were unsure they wanted a talking car show, but Larson and his group won them over. During the casting call for the handsome Michael Knight, the studio passed over the actor that would eventually win the role, David Hasselhoff, and even the charismatic Don Johnson. 2 hours later, they called Larson back and said he could have his first choice, the Hoff, driving the super crime-fighting vehicle. With the lead chosen, and I refer to the newly released Pontiac Trans Am, and his sidekick Hasselhoff secured, all that was needed was the last of the trifecta, the voice of Night Industry 2000's microprocessor. Larson wanted a stereotypical HAL-style computer voice for KITT, and having worked with William Daniels in film and television, thought he might have the perfect prissiness voice as a vocal partner for the solemn Michael Knight. To our younger listeners, William Daniel is better known as George Feeney on Boy or Girl Meets World and Dr. Craig Thomas in Grey's Anatomy. Daniels had appeared in Larson's Quincy M.E. and Galactica 1980, as well as dozens of other films and television shows. Our older listeners probably remember William Daniels as Mr. Braddock in the Oscar-winning film The Graduate. Daniels actually recorded the voice of KITT as a favor to Larson for the big preview pitch to the executives in New York. During the recording, Daniels insisted on not talking like a robot, and he used his own natural voice. After Knight Rider was sold, Larson asked him to join the cast. He assured them that this was not a full-time gig, and NBC, who owned both shows, would find a way to make it work. He agreed with the stipulation that he remain anonymous. Daniels felt that by keeping the voice actor of KITT uncredited, it gave the car more of a mind of its own. He was never credited on screen for his role in Knight Rider. Busy shooting the hit television show St. Elsewhere, Daniels was unable to deliver his lines on the set of Knight Rider. He recorded his lines alone in a sound studio, while actor David Hasselhoff conversed on set with a script reader stand-in. In fact, Daniels and Hoff didn't even meet face-to-face until the studio Christmas party held 6 months after Season 1 had finished filming. Knight Rider aired on September 26, 1982 on NBC as a 2-hour movie simply titled Knight Rider. The movie was directed by Daniel Haller, a Glen A. Larson favorite, having directed many episodes of his other shows. The TV movie would later be split into 2 episodes for the television run, and it was titled Night of the Phoenix. The story of Knight Rider unfolds with a Los Angeles detective, Michael Long, protecting 2 technology executives who appear to have been the recent victims of industrial espionage. Long learns that his charge, Tanya, is playing for the other side. After chasing her down to the desert in his black Trans Am, Tanya shoots Long in the face, leaving him for dead. Long is rescued by billionaire-eccentric Wilton Knight, who takes him to his private estate where emergency surgery is performed to save his life. The bullet Tanya fired at his head had bounced off a military plate Long had received during the Vietnam War. Long's face was completely shattered and had to be rebuilt by Knight and his advanced medical team. Wilton Knight creates Long a new identity as Michael Knight and offers him a job working for his organization, the Foundation for Law and Government, dedicated to catching criminals like Tanya that operate above the law. With Michael Long pronounced dead, Wilton assures him that his new identity is the only thing that protects him from those that would have him dead, and that stopping them is really his only choice. Long, now Knight, doesn't believe these criminals can be touched, that one man cannot make a difference. He refuses Wilton Knight's offer, demanding his car and his life restored. Wilton Knight is dying, and he wants to leave behind a legacy of law and order. Wilton is crushed at Michael's refusal, but orders the leader of the Foundation, Devin Miles, played by actor Edward Mulhare, to give Michael his car and to let him leave the complex. Miles takes Knight to his car, or what used to be his car. The Foundation has taken his Trans Am and transformed it into a super technological automobile, complete with a nearly indestructible bonded molecular shell, advanced self-driving AI, turbo-boosted engines, and many more tricks up its sleeve. The vehicle is nearly the perfect weapon and companion for Michael. Despite an uneasy first encounter with the car's artificial intelligence, and having seen the car in action, Michael decides to take Wilton up on his offer, returning to the Foundation. Wilton passes away, and Michael sets off to stop Tanya and her organization. By the end of the 2-hour pilot movie, Michael Knight and his car, now known as KITT, save the day and a beautiful young woman and her son, while solidifying his position in the Foundation for Law and Government. Knight Rider would go on for a total of 4 seasons, each season seeing the relationship between Knight and KITT grow, but also the Foundation members growing into a family. During its 90-episode run, from 1982 to 1986, several cast members were added or changed, sometimes causing a ruckus with the viewing audience. While the Hoff would stay in the Michael Knight role, Edward Mulhare would uphold the Foundation as Devin Miles, and William Daniels providing the voice for KITT, the ancillary cast was not so lucky. Patricia McPherson, daughter of a high-ranking naval officer and an accomplished model, played Bonnie Barstow, KITT's mechanic, and the sexual tension role opposite playboy Michael Knight during the first season of Knight Rider. Spunky and attractive, McPherson quickly became a fan favorite. McPherson struggled with her role as an expository, and while she was loved by the audience, the studio wanted to, quote, try something different, something glitzy, unquote, and they believed they had found it in a shapely redhead named Rebecca Holden. McPherson was fired, and Holden took over Bonnie's position, but not her character, as April Curtis. In future canon established after the show was off the air, April was explained as Devin Miles' daughter. When the studio dropped McPherson from the part, the fans were not pleased, nor was her on-screen co-star Hasselhoff. Angry and upset, Hoff was quoted as saying, quote, they let Patty go and I didn't have the guts to fight for her because I was still fighting for myself. In the second year, I really wanted her back. Both of us had survived against Dallas. I said, why are you breaking up this team, unquote. During Rebecca Holden's tenure as KITT's mechanic in Season 2, the viewers got a guilty pleasure favorite, the 3-part story arc featuring Wilton Knight's biological son, Garth, a perfect twin for Michael. Wilton had used Garth's face as the model in Michael Long's facial reconstruction. Hoff gets to play his evil twin in the two-parter titled Goliath, and finishes the arc later in the same season for the episode Goliath Returns. The producers reconsidered their decision on Bonnie, surely as no small response to fan disappointment, and Patricia McPherson was reinstated, with Holden and her character being written out of the show. Order was restored to the set of Knight Rider, and Season 3 is often considered to be the best, as it features several fan-favorite episodes. Night of the Drones, a two-part episode, was the triumphant comeback of Bonnie Barstow and featured self-destructing robots and drone cars. Halloween Night is Bonnie's episode, where she witnesses what she thinks is a murder, but when strange things start happening, she questions her sanity. It's probably the most meaty episode for Patricia McPherson, and certainly one of my favorites, featuring a creepy Anthony Perkins lookalike that goes by the name of Norman Baines. KITT vs. Car was the comeback episode for the Knight automated roving robot, where he's dredged from the sand by a down-on-his-luck teen and his girlfriend. Car and KITT go head-on, Car being equipped with a powerful laser stolen from the Foundation. Car's voice should sound familiar to Disney fans. It is played by Paul Frees, a longtime Mouse House actor who may coincidentally sound like the narrator in the Haunted Mansion ride at Disney's theme parks. Car was originally voiced by Peter Cullen, known as the voice of Optimus Prime. The Junkyard Dog episode features a rather emotional storyline where KITT is destroyed by toxic waste, and even when he is rebuilt, he just isn't the same. This was always a big favorite of mine, despite what was an obvious activist nod. By Season 4, the producers felt that KITT needed something bigger. Technology was booming, and the showrunners feared that KITT may not be as special as he once was. Cars that talked were a reality. While they certainly weren't conversational, a trip to the Datsun dealership could put you in the driver's seat of a talking car, the Maxima, which featured the voice response of, "Please turn off the lights." The magic maps KITT produced were real too, as global positioning was starting to be used by the military in the early 80s. In what some fans consider a knee-jerk reaction, KITT was outfitted with a new feature, Super Pursuit Mode. This transformed the car with retractable spoilers for aerodynamic stability, more inlets for cooling, and a top speed of over 300 miles per hour. Much like other superhero shows of the era, this special power was used sparingly, possibly once or twice per episode. Along with new tech, the producers wanted a new young face. Peter Peros joined the team as Reginald Cornelius III, or RC3. He becomes the official driver of the Mobile Flag Unit and acts as the occasional wingman for Michael and KITT. RC3 also helped out with KITT, trying to make him a little more hip by adding a convertible feature to the car. The final episode of Knight Rider aired on April 14, 1986, at the completion of a full Season 4 run. The production of Knight Rider is almost as interesting as the show itself. A true product of the 80s, Knight Rider was filled with both pop and country songs of the era. Well-known composer Don Peake scored the soundtrack for the show and was also responsible for the cover versions of the songs featured in the episodes. Peake said, quote, "I must have done a pretty good job because the original artist would occasionally call and ask if that was their song," unquote. They obtained permissions from the publishers, but master recordings by the original artists were far more expensive. It was cheaper to simply re-record the song in the studio with session players. Songs in the first season included Creedence Clearwater Revival's Proud Mary, the Eagles' Take It Easy, Pat Benatar's Hit Me With Your Best Shot, Sylvia's Nobody, and John Mellencamp's Hurt So Good. While KITT always looked his best, there were a lot of people responsible for it. Larson liked the look of the as-of-yet unreleased Pontiac third-generation Firebird, and with a few modifications like the sleeker nose and the Battlestar Galactica Cylon scanner in the front, the car remains largely unchanged on the outside. Pontiac was not initially interested in a talking car model of their vehicle being seen on television, but with a lot of persuasion, they gave the studio 3 of the first Trans Ams to come off the assembly line. One of the initial cars was used as the hero car and was decked out with all the trimmings, including the elaborate interior designs. There were a couple of different dash layouts, one being for the complex full visual shots and one more simple one for general use. The 2 other cars were used as stunt cars. During the show's run, they went through 4 to 9 cars per season. Each car required at least $18,000 to convert to the on-screen KITT car. Michael Sheffe, a Mattel toy company designer later responsible for the Back to the Future DeLorean, designed KITT's interior and contributed to the exterior modifications. The popularity of the car made it difficult to get replacements for the show. With the new Pontiac vehicle being in high demand, the crew had to constantly repair those that were demolished as best they could, keeping the 3 cars in circulation. In the spring of 1983, a train transporting Trans Ams from a plant to dealers derailed in California. While none of the cars were damaged, state law forbid the cars from being sold to the public. GM sold about 12 cars to the show for $1 each, with the stipulation that the cars had to be destroyed when the show ended. All but 5 cars were destroyed at the conclusion of the show's run. As time went on, the show had nearly 24 different KITT cars, each one for very specific tasks, including camera cars, more types of hero cars to allow more flexible filming, an actual pyrotechnics polyurethane layered car for heavy crashes, dedicated jumping versions, and more. By the way, that car didn't stay shiny and clean by itself. Between takes, 4 or 5 crew members were constantly wiping down KITT and polishing it to the high gloss we've come to expect from the supercar. The popularity of KITT wasn't as appreciated as you might think from Pontiac. Clever watchers will note that the car was noted as a black Trans Am in early shows, but later was referred to as a black T-top. At the time, Pontiac was flooded with requests for KITT, and they needed the show to stop referencing the car's make and model. Dealerships were known for complaining about customers wanting the exact same car they saw on television. Glen Larson has a true passion for the themes of his TV shows. It is arguable that Larson's shows have given us some of the most memorable themes of all time, including the incredible Battlestar Galactica theme. But nothing quite compares to Knight Rider's opening theme. Created by Stu Phillips, also the composer of Battlestar's theme, along with Larson, Knight Rider's theme is a thing of legends. It has been used, remixed, ringtoned, and played on numerous films and TV shows, including the popular animated show Family Guy. It is instantly recognizable, and when mixed with Richard Basehart's narrative, he also played Wilton Knight in the pilot, it is a haunting but invigorating prelude to the show. To understand the impact of this theme song, simply search YouTube for Knight Rider theme and prepare to be amazed. A little-known factoid about the popular theme is that it reputedly has inspiration from the 1876 French composition called Cortège des Bacchus by Leo Delibes. The melody is certainly recognizable. Check it out for yourself. It has also been rumored that Harry Thuman's 1982 synth track Sphinx may have also served as a muse for the popular theme song. Regardless of origin, Knight Rider's theme still tops the charts of history's best television theme music. The legacy of Knight Rider continued with Hoff and Edward Mulhare's involvement with the 1991 sequel movie called Knight Rider 2000. KITT's brain is moved to a custom, sporty red Dodge Stealth, and the intent was to carry the show's premise forward with a female protagonist named Sean McCormick. Devin Miles is killed in the episode. Edward Mulhare himself died in 1997, precluding the character from appearing in future episodes, and Michael Knight was mostly there to hand the baton to McCormick, played by the largely forgettable actress Susan Norman. The television movie got high ratings, but the plan to revive the series didn't happen. The film is available as part of Season 1's box set of Knight Rider. Many other Knight Rider-inspired films and TV shows followed, including a very loosely based movie titled Knight Rider 2010 and the 1997 TV spin-off Team Knight Rider. At least 2 different film adaptations were optioned in the years to come, including one in 2002 by Revolution Studios and another in 2006 when the Weinstein Company acquired the film rights to Knight Rider. Actors Ben Affleck and Orlando Bloom were both in consideration for Michael Knight's successor. In 2008, NBC attempted to revive the series with the premise of using Michael Knight's estranged son as the focal character. KITT was now a shape-shifting Ford Shelby Mustang voiced by Val Kilmer. The pilot TV movie got good ratings and the series was picked up for a complete 22-episode season. However, after the original 18 ordered episodes had finished their run, the show was put on hiatus for a restructure of cast and storylines. By 2009, NBC had canceled the show. But the legend of Knight Rider carries on. In 2016, it was announced that Fast and Furious director Justin Lin would helm a new digital reboot of the show, and it would be a joint collaboration between NBC Universal and online network Machinima. Hoff's involvement is confirmed, but further information is squelched as of the moment this podcast aired. The Weinstein Company still has the big screen rights to Knight Rider, and it appears that they are going to execute them. Hasselhoff has been very vocal recently about wanting a darker feel to the theatrical version of the franchise, citing an interest in Robert Rodriguez being attached to the project. Quote, "I want to bring it back and make it dark. Michael Knight comes back and he's pissed," unquote. Hoff said he would like a tone more like last year's R-rated superhero adaptation, Logan. Rodriguez has not commented on any intent to work on Knight Rider, but recent rumor mill indicates John Cena may be a favorite to play Michael Knight, with a wisecracking Kevin Hart as the voice of KITT. Regardless of the future direction of Knight Rider, the original 1980s television series lives on through die-hard fans and auto aficionados. Car collectors and the devoted spend upwards of $60,000 to make or buy their own replica of Knight Industries 2000, and every year conventions are packed with replica vehicles and cosplay, saluting Larson's action-adventure series featuring a smart talking car and the lone Knight Rider. Each episode of Repeat is the result of nearly a dozen hours of research, writing, recording, and producing. If you enjoy this body of work, consider contributing to the show on Patreon, a service that provides digital artists a means to be compensated for their creativity. Visit www.patreon.com/repeat for more information. I'm Shane R. Monroe. Thank you for listening to Repeat.